Hello folks, today in this video I'm going to show you something that I have done. I saw this and wanted to share this with you. I'm tying some jigs with some Mr. Crappie. They are Mr. Crappie jigs. They are 2-inch jokers is what they're called. One of my favorite ones. I'm going to grab 3 out of here because I'm going to show you a couple of different things that I've done. You know, a lot of times when you're fishing, you have a crappie to hit, and then 2 or 3 more. Before you know it, they've tore up your jig, and the little old rubber body is pretty well destroyed. So I'm going to show you some things that I've done. The first thing I'm going to do on one of these jigs is I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to remove the little barb that holds the jig in place. And I'll show you why I'm going to do that. Partly, these are 1/16 ounce jig heads, and I'm wanting to remove it to make it a little bit lighter so it gives a little slower fall. And so that's the purpose of that one. And then another one, I've already got it started on here. Then the third one that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some yarn, some floss, and I'm going to leave the little barb on this one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this down the hook a ways, and I'll tell you in a minute why I'm doing this. The jig body that I'm using is kind of a clear, and so this will have a little of I like my fluorescent colors, especially for crappie. I don't know, it just seems to do pretty good. So I'm putting some thread on here and just to coat it, mostly for something else, but a little bit for the visibility. So here's what I'm going to do. Now that I've got that coated, I'm going to take my super glue, and before I cut my thread, I'm going to take and just cover that with a little bit of super glue just so that it stays on the jig. Just a little bit. Okay, that should hold it in place. Let's just wrap a couple of more on there, and then we'll grab the scissors. We don't want to cut that with pliers. That would be a joke, right? Okay, so our thread is now glued. It's not coming off. I'll show you in a moment what that's for. But to get started, I'm going to go ahead and start my jig body onto the hook. Not all the way, but it's just started. And then the other one that I cut I made, like I said, 1/16 ounce jig head, and I cut the little barb off because we're not going to need it. I want it to be a little bit lighter, but I didn't want it to be all the way to a 32nd ounce. So then I'm going to start that one. So all 3 of them are started on there, and they're bunched up. And here's what I do. Pull that back a little ways down the hook. Take my super glue and put just a little dab. A little dab will do you. You don't need very much. And then I'm going to push the body up against the head. I'm going to hold it there for just a second. And we're going to lay that one aside. And I'll show you in a moment what happens. Then the next one, I left that barb that holds the jig, I left it on there. Not necessary, but it's going to be the full 1/16 ounce weight. So a little bit of super glue on that one. push it up over the barb against the head good and tight. Hold it there for just a moment and let that glue have a chance to set. Almost covered the eyes with that one. I'll lay that one aside. And now the one that I put the thread on, I'm going to take and I'm going to coat that thread with a little super glue as well. A little dab right down there close to the body, and a little bit up there close to the head. Now, I'm going to push that one up on there. I don't know what the big difference will be, but other than, I don't know if you can see, but inside that it's showing that orange, so it's giving a little bit of more color, a little more attractive to the fish. So let's leave that there for just a second. Now, this was the one that I cut the barb off of, and if you notice that jig is on there good and solid. The same way with the one that I left the little barb on, it may hold a little better. The glue is still a little bit tacky, so I want to leave it for a little bit before I put it in my holder. Now this one that I put the fluorescent orange under, it seems to be held the better. Now here's the thing. The more the thread inside gives the glue a little more surface to bond the rubber body to. On an earlier video that I started, I took and already had this one here. You can't see it now, but I had glued this one on and was trying it, and just pull it on the tail. It broke almost into, if it wasn't that one, let's see if I can tell, or that one. I did 3 of them. It wasn't that one. It had to be this one. I broke the body. I pulled on it so hard that it broke right there, right in front of the barb, and it was just hanging. Well, I took my super glue and put on there, and then I pushed it back together. That super glue has reconnected, so that jig is still there. The reason I do this, a lot of times after catching several fish, unless you've lost it in your brush pile, the fish will tear the legs off of them, or they'll even tear the whole body enough that it starts sliding down the hook, and you push it back up and it doesn't stay. If you don't lose it in your brush pile, that will last on several fish a lot longer. So what I do before I go fishing, I take and do several of them, maybe 15 or 20 of them, and put them in my little box, and I'll show you that right here. Here's some that I have done previously, and all of these have been super glued on. I did one other thing. I took some crappie niblets and put them in here. You can see the little yellow crappie niblets. They've been in there for a long time, but there's still some of the odor, the smell to them. Well, I did that thinking that maybe that jig body would absorb that smell, which would maybe help on the scent and attracting those fish. I don't know if that works or not. That's just something that I'm trying, and you might want to give that a shot. But a little bit of super glue on your jig before you put the body on will definitely hold it in place. But be careful whenever you put it on that you start your rubber jig onto your hook and get it lined up perfectly, so that whenever you push it up onto that super glue, that it comes out looking like you want it, instead of the hook maybe being off over to the side, or it's not hooked on straight, or because there's no changing it once you're done. Folks, I hope that has been something that you can use in your fishing adventures. You have a blessed day, and thank you very much for watching.